Elevate your happy hour at the Library of Congress, which is open late on Thursdays for Live at the Library. Enjoy cocktails in the iconic Thomas Jefferson Building alongside live music, author talks, exhibits, and more. It's all free, eclectic, and inspired by the library's collections. On deck for August are outdoor film screenings, a K-pop night, and folk concert with Amanda Pascali. Plan your next night out at loc.gov/live.
Today on CityCast DC, we are officially in those hot, muggy days of August, so you may not be surprised to find out that DC's ice cream scene is having a moment. The Washingtonian's Jessica Sidman is also an ice cream aficionado, and she's serving up the scoop on what's hot in DC's ice cream treats. Today is Wednesday, August 12th. I'm Bridget Todd, and here's what DC is talking about. Jessica, my favorite foodie in DC, welcome back to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So I want to ask first, do you consider yourself an ice cream person?
Yes. Okay. Let me lay out my credentials here beyond just being food editor. A lot of people don't know my very first job in high school was working in an ice cream shop. And before I was a full-time food writer, I actually had an ice cream blog called Frozen Fix. And I would make all these weird ice cream flavors on my crappy Cuisinart that I got on Craigslist, and I would post the recipes online. So I do love ice cream.
So you're not just an ice cream expert aficionado because you work as a food editor. You know this stuff inside and out. I'm talking to a genuine certified ice cream expert here.
I do love ice cream.
Do you have some favorite ice cream spots in DC?
Absolutely. I will say I do like kind of weird flavors. I mean, I love just a straight up dark chocolate, but I will go for the kind of bougie scoop every time. So I love Happy Ice Cream, which is part of Gemini near DuPont Circle. Obviously, they're a wine bar, pasta shop, lots of different things, but they also serve ice cream. They have a little cart out front. They're always changing their flavors. So, currently they have, for example, a grapefruit brulee with graham crumble and roasted nectarine sorbet. It changes frequently, but one of my favorites, which is pretty much always available, is an olive oil cocoa crumble that they have. And it's just so silky, and the way they layer in the cocoa crumble. The guy who runs it, Ben Brunner, was a pastry chef, Comey. So, this is a person who really knows their stuff, knows their flavors, knows desserts, and is putting it all to good use to create the perfect scoop.
I was reading the piece, 7 Cool International Ice Cream Spots Around DC. I was kind of surprised at the different kinds of flavor offerings. I'm not even really sure how to describe it, but it's not just chocolate or espresso. It's flavors and combinations that I hadn't thought of, hadn't considered, hadn't tried. Is this sort of part of a trend of ice cream in DC, these different flavor offerings?
Yeah, not even a trend. I just think it's a reflection of DC, which is so diverse, and we have so many international cuisines. And so, of course, that's going to apply to ice cream as well. You have places like Malai, which has Indian-inspired ice creams. New in Georgetown, Yala Greek ice cream. There's a place in Rockville called York Castle, which has been around a long time, and they have lots of kind of Caribbean flavors like soursop and things you don't find normally. Of course, matcha, I feel like, is everywhere, but there is a place in Centerville, which I know is a trek for some people. There's a tea house called Bon Tea House, and they do just I swear it's the best matcha soft serve you've ever had, and they will often have other seasonal Japanese-inspired flavors that they'll swirl in with it, and it is so good.
I read that you can get a matcha affogato there.
Yeah, I think you can get that. Sounds like something that they definitely have, which sounds incredible.
I love this idea that we're both representing the sort of traditional scoop shop that you remember from high school or middle school, and then these sort of elevated, more global ice cream offerings of things that I wouldn't necessarily think about getting a scoop of ice cream from a Japanese tea house. Am I wrong in saying that I feel like DC is kind of experiencing a bit of an ice cream renaissance? There seems like there's new spots opening, new collaborations. Is this something you've noticed as well?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you have, for example, this new concept called Snow Crane, which I haven't had a chance to try yet, but it's getting a lot of hype. They don't have a brick and mortar yet, but they've been doing some pop-ups, and it's Japanese-inspired ice cream. The chef used to work at Rose's Luxury and Pineapple and Pearls, and doing, really sophisticated flavors, or not even sophisticated, but just using like the highest end ingredients he can possibly find, like crowned melon imported from Japan, which, some of these melons can go for a very pretty penny. Turning that into, like a special little sundae, or other tea besides just matcha. And he did a pop-up at Little Pearl on Capitol Hill, and there were lines down the block. So I think clearly there's an appetite for some of this stuff. But then, on the other end of the spectrum, something like EB's Corner Bar, where they have a banana split sundae, which is just as old school as it gets. The banana, they caramelize it, the whipped cream, the sprinkles, the maraschino cherry. And I think that's such a huge hit too. So, you do see it on both ends of the spectrum.
What do you think accounts for this growth in the DC ice cream scene?
I mean, I think we're at a point where nostalgia is really in, comfort is really in right now. And what is more nostalgic than an ice cream cone? I think, when it comes to restaurants, obviously, things are so expensive right now, and the industry is struggling in that way. A lot of times they can't afford a pastry chef, and honestly, an ice cream always hits, and it doesn't require a lot of work. You can source it from other great producers. There are different reasons, but, it's not even a trend. I think it's something that's just evergreen, that you can find all the time. And now just happens to be a great summer for it.
Yeah, we were talking about this on one of our monthly guide episodes, but we were talking about, I think it was a frozen yogurt pop-up. And I said, oh, frozen yogurt, that really reminds me of, I don't know, it's a little bit of a throwback. Do you remember the frozen yogurt? I don't want to say craze, but there was a time where they were everywhere for a while, and then they kind of faded out, and now it seems like they're kind of phasing them back in.
Yes, yeah, Froyo. I mean, this must have been like a decade or so ago, and it was just everywhere. Pinkberry was all the rage, and it kind of disappeared, but it is making a bit of a comeback. For example, Van Leeuwen, which is a big chain. But they have multiple locations in this area, and they just launched or are just about to launch frozen yogurt. And I would not be surprised to kind of see that popping up elsewhere, because all trends are cyclical. Everything old becomes new again.
How would you describe the evolution of the city's kind of ice cream scene? Has its growth and trends pretty much mirrored what's happening in other cities, or does DC sort of stand alone in what we're doing?
It's hard to say how it compares to other cities. I think, like the rest of the dining scene, ice cream has become more sophisticated. Some of the examples that I gave, even a hometown favorite like Dolcezza, which I think sometimes people forget about because it's been around so long and it's so ubiquitous. It's in Whole Foods and everything now. But they're still, I think, really pushing the envelope and doing some super interesting things. They've been doing a bunch of really interesting collaborations with restaurants. There's one that just launched actually with Rye Bunny in Adams Morgan, which is kind of, the red hot restaurant of the moment. And they have 2 soft serve sundaes. And okay, I'm just going to read one of the descriptions because it sounds really weird, but also kind of incredible. So it's an olive oil basil soft serve with chocolate eggplant sauce, a sweet pepper jam, and caramelized pine nuts.
So that sounds absurd, but it might be one of those ice cream combinations where it's so crazy it might just work. One of those.
Exactly. I trust the people behind this, so I'm like, I gotta try it. I think that's kind of one of the trends we're seeing is just ice cream is becoming much more culinary, right? A lot chefier. It's not just chocolate and vanilla. It's chefs thinking about this in a new way. Like, how can we push the envelope? How can we maybe fold in some savory flavors, but still make it a delicious sweet treat? And so there's a lot of, interesting things going on that I don't think we saw a decade ago.
Here is something from our sponsors at the DC Department of Behavioral Health. DC is turning a corner, and the numbers back it up. Fatal opioid overdoses dropped 33% in this city from 2023 to 2024. That's not just data, that's real people, real families, still together. But the work isn't done, and neither are we. If you or someone you love is struggling, help is closer than you think. Text LiveLongDC to 888-811 to connect with treatment, housing, and recovery support right here in the district. Free Narcan is available at nearly 40 locations across DC because nobody should lose someone for lack of access. And if you're in crisis right now, call or text 988. Know your worth, know your alternatives, know your value, know yourself. Recovery is possible. Find out how at knowyourpathdc.com.
Let's talk about the DC SCU, your friendly neighborhood sustainable energy utility. 15 years and they're still here. Talk about eyes on the prize. Their mission possible. Serving residents with efficiency and clean energy programs, improving affordability and quality of life across all 8 wards. They've delivered $2.2 billion in lifetime savings for district residents and businesses alike. They've prevented 10.1 million metric tons of emissions right here. These are your neighbors working for you. And it makes sense that they're in Southeast by the ballpark because they are knocking it out of the park daily. There is no ivory tower. They're on the sidewalks, out on the streets, and they're at your door, making it happen more capable, more committed than ever. Doing right by you and you and you. I see you standing up. That's right, clap your hands because DC SCU is 15 and still redefining power in the district. Find out more at dcscu.com. Do you have any favorite spots in DC that have closed or ice cream trends that have maybe come and gone that you're still mourning and thinking about?
Well, I'll mention another place that's it's still around, but they used to have a truck that would be around in DC, and they don't street vend as much anymore. But Goodies, frozen custard.
Oh, yeah.
That is another really good one. And again, that's actually almost the opposite of everything I'm talking about, where it's just so simple. Just get the vanilla. It is so creamy, just perfect. And during the heat of the modern food truck craze, they had a truck that would go around, and I think they had donut custard sandwiches that were so good. You can still get those in Alexandria, but that's another favorite one. The food truck scene's gone a little downhill, but it would be cool to see maybe some of these more gourmet options return to a mobile form.
And that would really bring together the sort of 2 worlds. You know, when I was a kid, I have great memories of chasing around the ice cream truck, marry that with this sort of elevated, more interesting offerings, I could really see that taken off.
Yeah.
What about for our non-dairy listeners? Are there places people should have on their radar?
I think, that's front of mind for pretty much every, ice cream business these days. Like they want to have some sort of non-dairy option or, nut-free option. So I think you can find things pretty much anywhere. Like I was just mentioning the roasted nectarine sorbet at Happy Ice Cream.
When I was in junior high, if you had told me that one day I'd be eating these ice cream flavors, I would be like, what are you talking about? But it really speaks to how we just have so many different kinds of offerings and flavor pairings here now.
Absolutely. Yeah. The options are truly endless.
Are there spots that are opening soon or soonish that you're keeping an eye on?
Snow Crane that I mentioned, I think he will be back with either another pop-up, and I know he's working toward finding a permanent space, so that's definitely one to watch. Go check out, I guess, the Froyo at Van Leeuwen. That's not a new place, but a new offering. I'm not sure about other ice cream places that are opening at the moment, but, I think every time there's a new restaurant, also there's some interesting ice cream offerings. I just went to Ox and Olive, which is a kind of swanky new steakhouse in Georgetown, and they do a chocolate soft serve that they serve with French fries, like McDonald's style French fries, or like Wendy's rather, where you dip the fry in the frosty, and kind of an elevated take on that vibe. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there.
I was once coming back from a nightclub in the back of an Uber, and my driver, we just got to talking, and I was like, you know how you dip your fries in frosty? And he was like, I've never done that. And I was like, there's a Wendy's. We need to pull over immediately. And so we pulled over and got a frosty and fries. Yeah.
Oh,
I was like,
gosh.
you never dipped your fries in frosty? What are you talking about?
So you changed his life.
I think so. I hope if he's listening, I hope it got you on the right path of putting French fries in ice cream. I have a little bit of a bonus question for you, which is that from reading this piece, I learned about dirty soda, which is something that they have at Soft Spot and Chantilly. For folks who are uninitiated, what is a dirty soda?
This is like a big thing in Salt Lake City. And in Utah, where it's basically like they add flavored syrups and cream to soda. It's maybe not for everyone, but I think if you have a real sweet tooth, that's that's a good option, I guess. Not necessarily my favorite thing, but it exists out there. I feel like that's like a big TikTok thing.
I was going to ask you, is that something you're getting involved with? It sounds like maybe not so much.
Maybe not so much for me personally.
As a certified ice cream person, somebody with this history of ice cream, do you have a favorite ice cream memory?
Oh, wow. That's such a good question. Definitely working in an ice cream shop as my first job. I have a lot of memories from that. It was my friend's dad who owned it, Josh and John's in Colorado Springs. I'll give them a little shout out. They're still there. And I just remember always like burning my fingers while making the waffle cones, rolling the waffle cones by hand. And they let me decorate some of the ice cream cakes once. And I felt like that was one of my all-time career peaks to be able to decorate the cakes. So many good memories from that.
How did you go from working in an ice cream store to being like, you know what? This needs to also be on the internet. I need to turn this into an ice cream blog.
Well, that happened many years later. That was just a high school job. I just was trying to make some extra cash. But I did always love ice cream. And, I was in journalism from high school, basically. And when I did get interested in food writing, it was kind of a hard beat to break into. And so I thought, let me start my own blog. And I had bought this ice cream maker and I was like, okay, let me make ice cream. And here I am.
That's so cool. I miss that era of internet where you could just start a blog and see what happens, and look where it took you.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. Well, I would like to think it was more on like my journalism reporting credentials than the ice cream blog, but that was like a fun side project. That was kind of the moment of peak blog. So I'm glad that I got to experience, that part of the zeitgeist.
Absolutely. Jessica, is there anything that I did not ask that you want to make sure gets included in our ice cream roundup of the city?
Just whatever you like, whatever flavor you like, go for it. Like, you don't have to be fancy like me. If you just like vanilla, I'm always taking my kids out for ice cream and they just want vanilla. And that's great. It brings them so much joy. So have at it.
Are you ever like, oh, they've got cilantro. Do you want to try that?
No, I know better. They just want the vanilla. I'm not going to push it.
Well, Jessica, thank you for being here. I'll see you around the ice cream shops.
See ya.
That is all for today here on CityCast DC. And hey, if you enjoyed the show, share it with the ice cream lover in your life. You can rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with even more news from around the city. Talk to you soon.